My name is Khalick Hewitt. I was raised around the steel band at a time when the steel band movement was sort of getting off the ground. I came out of a band which is no longer in existence. It's called City Syncopators. I have been following the steel band movement for a very long time. As a matter of fact, I write a small blog which I call the International Steel Band Hall of Fame. So I write about my experiences in the steel band movement, my observations and what I have seen. Sometimes I'm critical, sometimes I'm complimentary, but by and large I write what I see. And I have been trying to get PanTalk, which is the world governing steel band organization, to bring the steel band movement into the 21st century. One of the major problems I have with the grandstand for Panorama is if you look at the grandstand, you would see there are many posts around which is holding up the structure. You have in the front about 4 or 5 steel posts, in the middle, at the back. That is a disaster for seeing the players on the stage. You know, if you're sitting in the western side, you just can't see the whole steel band. No, these posts block you. So my suggestion to PanTalk under its current president was to petition the government, since they're interested in local culture and they have this vision of promoting local culture, in actually building something for the national instrument. They call the steel pan, it's the national instrument. They should have a hall, and in this case the grandstand, for the Panorama activities and the semi-finals, where you can see the whole stage, because right now you have these obstacles blocking you from one center to another. Also, there should be some arrangement to have the stage set up in such a way as to allow bands, when they finish play, to move off as quickly as possible so the next band could come on. Some people have suggested a revolving stage. I don't know if they can do that, but they have to find some way of getting the bands to move quickly off of the stage. I can't believe that after 50 years, because Panorama started in 1963, that the organizers don't seem to get it right. There seems to be a lot of trial and error. Now, I could see trial and error in the first 10 years, the first 5 years, 15 years. But after 50 years, you're supposed to have something done in a blueprint fashion that you can, depend on to run the Panorama smoothly. And this is the semi-finals and the finals. There has been a change over the years with the type of tunes that steel bands are getting to play for their Panorama celebration. We no longer have the Sparrow and the Kitcheners, writing music, or singing music, particularly for the pan. So you have the new soca music, and a lot of it is not actually geared to pan playing, to the orchestra actually playing, this type of music. It's usually, called a jump up music, but some of it, lacks, some melody, and when the pan plays it doesn't sound as complete. Now, fortunately for bands like Phase 2, they have their own composer. They have, Bugsy Sharp, and he composes his music. Ray Holman, I see he's back in the limelight this year. He composed his own tune, and he's arranging for Skiffle, which used to be Skiffle Bunch. But most of the bands choose a tune. Some choose a tune by Destra. You have Professor with Fontclair. You had bands like All Stars, they had their tune. But for me, Exodus, for example, they went back to an old tune that was redone, called Gold. This was done in the 60s. I believe Pelham Goddard, he arranged it for the Third World Orchestra, which was, then in practice. I felt it was a very good rendition. Desperados, I am very proud and happy to see that they are back in the mix. They made the final cut, and I found their music to be excellent. They had a tune called Hammer Time, which was sort of reflecting on their former leader, Rudolph Charles, who many people refers to as the hammer, the man with the hammer. And they played well. I expected them to come higher up. Of course, the judges had a different opinion, and I always say the judge's decision is final, so I have no problem with their decision. Renegades did well after Jit resigned or retired from the band. They have a new arranger, Devon Stewart, I believe is his name. And he has been trying to sort of remodel the band, which is to say that he's trying to get away from the Jit Samaru format. And he's been doing a pretty decent job. Last year he was good. This year he's improved a lot. And he's trying to sort of bring the band into the 21st century. They haven't won a Panorama for a very long time, just like Desperados. The bands that seem to have been in the mix for winning was Silver Stars, All Stars, and Phase 2. Well, this year, Phase 2 won the Panorama, and they did a very good job. I think Booksy was excellent, his arrangement. It was just music upon music, very, very sweet music. So, the Greens, as we know it, coming back to that place, it seems that we have the Carnival Village, which is next to the Grandstand, which is another innovation that the present government instituted, which is good. But you have too many things going on in the savannah at the same time, and it allows for some confusion. Now, last year, I believe they tried, the Pantry and Bagel tried to charge people a fee, I think it was $60 or so, to go on the greens. People were very upset, not because of the money, as some people would refer to, but I think the arrangement and the way it was organized. We haven't learned yet how to really service our customers, and the patrons who are attending these festivities are customers. They pay their money, and they should rightfully expect decent treatment. I can't understand that. Why would Pantry and Bagel allow people to come to the Panorama to compete, which is that they're playing music, loud music too, with their their speakers and whatnot, and so that the audience in the grandstand can't hear the bands. So, as I said, I think Pantry and Bagel should sort of have a more firm arrangement that if the mass camps cannot stop or allow the steel bands to play, then there should be some arrangement whereby they should stop them from coming. Maybe that would mean losing a few dollars, but the integrity of the competition would remain. This year, Pantry and Bagel decided to reintroduce the Monday night mass, which again was a disaster because they were supposed to have 3 areas that bands would gather to compete for some type of monetary payment. There was the City Hall, there was Piccadilly Greens, and there was a space close to WAC radio station in San Fernando. I don't know what happened in San Fernando or Piccadilly Greens, but I know on Frederick Street at City Hall, 4 bands showed up: Desperados, Belmont Highlark, Solo Harmonites, and another band whose name I can't remember. I spoke to the captain of All Stars on my way there, and he said the band just wasn't going to come out. The players were too tired. Because you have young people playing the pan now. These panists are between 15, sometimes 14, and 25. And they're tired. They've been on the road all day. So it didn't come to fruition as Pantry and Bagel would have liked it. Plus, there was something unusual going on. There was one judge, the famous icon from Tripoli, Hewitt. I spoke to him. He said he was the only judge. I couldn't understand how they'd have one judge judging this competition. But I enjoyed Harmonites. They played well. They played one of the soca tunes because that was the requirement, that you play a soca tune. I walked around and I saw, it's sad to see some steel bands who have been around since the 40s were on the road, and there were very few players, masqueraders that is, supporting the band. Despot had about maybe 10 people behind. They played no mass. Renegades brought out some kind of masquerade. All Stars, Starlift. I did not see Starlift on the road. I saw them on the TV later on, but I saw All Stars. They were pretty big. They played their Manda Mass, and then as usual they played their Sailor Mass, USS Fleetson, They were big. They were pretty big. But they have another problem. They would stop every couple of blocks. A young friend of mine referred to the band as a geriatric band. He said that's the reason that they were stopping. They're tired. But it doesn't do well for the players, the masqueraders, because you spend your money to play in the band and you expect constant music all during the day. I played with them in 2007, both days, Monday and Tuesday, and after that I said, there's no way I'm going to be playing, because you sort of confine into one steel band, so you're not seeing the other bands or the mass on the street. So you expect the type of music to be constant in the band, so you could be just jumping and chipping. But I followed the band. It's a band from my community, so I kind of take pride in being among them, and I have a lot of friends there. I walked around, I saw a lot of the Tuesday Mass, but I was very impressed with the Kiddies Carnival on Monday. I mean, that is a sight to behold. People should just come into Trinidad, visit the carnival, and see those children, young kids, playing Mass. I mean, the costumes are excellent. So I took some pictures, which I'm going to put on my blog when I return to New York. By and by, I felt this year Carnival was not as exciting as last year. There were less people on the street. There seemed to be less foreign, visitors. Of course, the locals who were coming back, they would return all the time. Even the festivities were not packed with, foreigners as you normally have that. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if people are going elsewhere or they just couldn't make it this year, because I know in New York, we had a terrible storm in last year, so people are probably rebuilding and spending money, But I think there is a great future for the steel pan, but I think there needs to be a change in management, and they have to bring in new people, new blood. I'm concerned that the young people are not interested in managing their various steel bands. They are good musicians, they play, but they're not interested in any kind of management. So I don't know when this generation passes, I don't know where they're going to get the type of managers to carry on the steel band as we know it. Maybe it will have some change, but it's alive and well, and it's not in danger. I mean, pan is well established throughout the world. It's in most countries of the world. In Switzerland, they have about 130 steel bands. In the United States, in different states, they have steel bands on campuses. So the orchestra and the instrument is doing well. It's just that we need better management at its home base.